Welcome into the off-season on Warchant.com, where it's time for Hot Topics. I'm Jeff Cameron alongside Ira Schoffel and Corey Clark. And today's Hot Topic, why don't we look at the win-loss record for Florida State in the upcoming season? Obviously a brutal schedule. So, Ira, I start with you. Where are you at with the win-loss record in year number 1 for Willie Taggart?
You know, it's weird. Like if I say 8-4, that seems low. But if I say 9-3, I feel like that's kind of maybe shooting a little high, just because I do feel like they got a really tough schedule.
Brutal.
Right now, I'd say 8-4. I'm going to go ahead and say 8-4, and just think that, you know, set the bar a little bit lower. And if it's 9 or 10 wins, you're thrilled. I think if people start setting it at 9 or 10, there's a chance they're going to be disappointed.
Well, you can have fun with this too, Corey. You can do the game. You can play the game where you say, what's more likely? Florida State goes, let's say, 8-5, something like that, along those lines, or 8-4, excuse me,
right.
and or 10-2, which is more likely.
I feel like 10-2 is more likely.
Do you really?
I do. The days of 7-6 are over.
It's gone.
They're gone, man. They're gone. I mean, I don't remember the last 7-6 season around here.
Yeah.
That stuff doesn't happen. No, I mean, I think this roster is talented, and I think the offense couldn't be worse. It's going to be significantly better. It could. I mean, it has to be.
You would
if
think.
It's not. What are we doing?
What are we doing in year 1, right?
So I think. I mean, obviously they're not going to go undefeated. And there is a chance that they lose 4 games. I just think they're going to have a bigger margin for error now, because they are going to blow out some teams that they didn't. That never happened the last 3 or 4 years. They just didn't blow out teams. Now they will. So just win a few of the close games.
Well, let's go through those close games, and let's get after this schedule for a second. It starts off with a bang right off the bat with Virginia Tech coming to town in one of the more eagerly anticipated games in Florida State in a long time. I think the atmosphere might be akin to that of Oklahoma when they came in. People are starving for something new. They're going to get it that night. It is the lone game the nation will be watching. Virginia Tech has already had a rough offseason so far, in particular on the defensive side of the ball, where they were having to replace quite a few talented players that went on to the NFL, but then they had an injury, and they had another guy they lost to grades. So your thoughts on that game? We start with Virginia Tech. Do we think the Willie Taggart era gets off to a great start?
I do. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I do think the energy is going to be incredible for that game. You know, Peter Warwick getting his number retired before the game against Virginia Tech. Just when they show those highlights on the big screen of Peter Warwick against Virginia Tech, I think it's going to be a raucous atmosphere. Really the best we've seen in a long time at Doak. But I think Florida State's going to win the game. I think it's at home. I think Florida State's offense is going to be a lot better than obviously what we saw last year. And I think the defense has a chance to be better than last year, even though they lost a lot of key players. So I think Florida State's going to open up with a win against Virginia Tech.
Less than ideal to have to implement a new offense in a game situation against a Bud Foster defense. But do you share Ira's enthusiasm for that first one?
Yeah, I think it would have been better for Florida State if that quarterback had been academically ineligible.
Yeah,
I think that would have been nice if the Virginia Tech was not starting a guy that the guy that started 13 games last year. Is a pretty good quarterback. He's not, you know, he's not Michael Vick.
Freshman year, yeah.
But he's probably closer to Marcus Vick than Michael Vick. But he's still not a bad quarterback. But yeah, I mean, I'm not as confident as Ira seems to be, because I think Bud Foster is a good defensive coordinator, and I trust that Virginia Tech's going to score some points. So I'm more interested in just what this thing looks like. I think they win the game, but I wouldn't be stunned if they lost it. And that's the kind of hard-hitting insight and analysis.
They could win the game, but you wouldn't be surprised if they didn't win the game.
See what I'm saying?
That's what Corey brings to the table right there. A little bit of maybe, maybe not.
And I didn't guarantee the win.
No, you basically, Gary, you Joe Namath it.
Hey, folks, I'll go ahead and guarantee the win. Florida State beats Virginia Tech. However, I will say this is a brutal schedule, and as we look through it, you've got road games against Miami, you got a road game against Louisville, you got to host Clemson. Obviously, at the end of the year, you get your rival in Florida, who's down. That should be another win. But you know, the NC State Clemson stretch where you have all these games that are awfully tough, they begin to add up, and you could see where you could have a hard time. By the way, this is going to be a good version of Boston College this year. A lot of seniors on that team are going to run the football. 35-3 loss. So I think 8-4 is more realistic. I'll hope for 9-3, and in fact, I'll predict 9-3, and I think that's a fine first year. Of course, it matters who you beat and who you lose to,
so
but I'll take
9-3. 10-2, 9-3, 8-4.
Yeah, you're going 10-2, huh? Who are the 2 losses to? Top of your head. In a vacuum, it's hard to find any loss, right? But yeah, who you got?
I think Clemson is a loss,
yep.
And I think Notre Dame.
Okay, on the road to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is I just think they could lose at Notre Dame. I think they could lose them at Miami. I think Miami's got a head start now where their program is versus where Willie Taggart's taking over. I think you look at,
NC State.
NC State will be tough.
On the road.
Finley's back for his 16th year of his college football. And I just think.
So you like 8-4, don't you?
I think 8-4 is probably where they're going to be.
All right, so the schedule, it's a daunting one for Willie Taggart in year one. He's got talent. We're all excited to see it. None of us really, besides Corey, think he navigates this with a 10-win season, but Ira and I go with 9 and 8 respectively. We'll come back and do more with the hot topics in the offseason here on warchant.com.